Hello, it's Election Brief with me, Araba Kumson. Welcome. Today, NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama is back on the campaign trail, promising to construct first-class roads at Bolgatanga, upgrade the status of the Wa municipality, among others, if re-elected to power, as he begins a 4-day campaign tour of the Upper West region.
Look at the population of Wa today. There's no reason why Wa should still be a municipal assembly. And so we upgrade Wa to a metropolitan assembly.
We'll bring you an update of his visit there. Now, residents of Odododo are warning of reprisals following the assault on MP Nilante Vanderpoy, and security and political analysts are calling on security agencies to clamp down speedily on perpetrators of violence ahead of the December polls.
4 years ago, they start. Leneyana yi meganibi. Ni mene use ke yi me menoni fiona ganibi no. Lene start.
And today on Voters' Voice, we will hear the voices of the electorate in the Kaneshie Market as they justify why their candidate should win at this year's polls. More of that coming up on your election brief. We are live on your DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144, also streaming live on myjoyonline.com. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us. Now, the era of juicy promises is gone. Ghanaians are well informed and discerning and will vote for whichever party serves them better. Wa Bolga to have the first-class road, abandoned projects at Wa campus of the University of Development Studies to be completed, Wa Regional Hospital to receive seed money for development projects. We will upgrade Wa Municipal to a metropolitan status. Well, these are some of the promises flag bearer of the main opposition, NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has made to the people of the Upper West region. Mr. Mahama on Tuesday arrived in the region to begin his 4-day campaign tour there. Let's listen to him as he addresses residents of Suyiri.
We're working on several things before we left office. If you go to UDS, there were several major projects we're working on. The new lecture theater, the students' hostel, the library, and all those things we're working on have come to a standstill since NDC left office. Before we left office, we built a state-of-the-art library here in Wa, in the Upper West region. Indeed, it is reputed to be one of the best libraries in the whole of Ghana. We upgraded the Wa airstrip into an airport. We created arrival, departure, and flights started to come into Wa. When we come, we're going to upgrade the airport further so that more people can use the aircraft to fly into the Wa airport. I told my father, the Wana, that because we are working on the road to Hamile, when we come, we'll finish that road from Laura to Hamile. Most of the vehicles that are going to Mali and Bobo Dulaso will rather prefer to come through Wa and go through Hamile. And so because of that, we'll dualize the road from Mahama all the way out of Wa so that the trucks can pass safely without facing any difficulty. If you look at the population of Wa today, there's no reason why Wa should still be a municipal assembly. And so we upgrade Wa to a metropolitan assembly. With all the development projects that come with a metropolitan assembly, so that it will be a befitting capital of the Upper West region.
Let's talk to a man on the ground, Rafiq Salam, who has more on this tour. Rafiq, let's begin with healthcare. What does Mr. Mahama mean by seed money for the Wa Regional Hospital?
Wa Regional Hospital started operating. That was at the beginning of last year, and at the beginning of the year, I would have seed money. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Rafiq. We can hear you.
Hello? Yeah, the Upper West Regional Hospital started without seed money. You know, this is a hospital that was a construction that was started by the Mahama administration. Right. And so it was supposed to be completed in their tenure. But according to Mr. Mahama, the opening of the hospital was delayed by the MPP administration. And then when they started operating it, they were not having seed money for the hospital. And so he's saying that because of that, the hospital is challenged and is not able to operate to full capacity. And so these are the issues that Mr. Mahama has been talking about regarding healthcare. He also talked about the issue of primary healthcare for the people. And he's saying that when the NDC comes to power, should they be given the nod? Ghanaians, you don't need a health insurance card to go to the hospital. Those people who attend to facilities will be catered for at the primary level.
Now, we've been hearing Mr. Mahama, rolling out a litany of promises, what he intends to do if the people re-elect him. But he's also been talking about political parties that, who come to the electorate with false promises. Tell us about that.
We talk about juicy promises that were touted by the MPP when they were in opposition, and then since they came into government, they have not been able to deliver. In certain instances, the upgrading of the giving autonomous status to the campus of the UDS, and he stated that they have started that process, bringing a whole lot of facilities to that particular university. As we speak now, he's saying that those projects that they started, that was started by the NDC administration, have not been stalled. He talked about upgrading the WA municipality into a status of a metropolitan status, and he's saying that WA is growing, is fast growing, and so once census is conducted next year, he will elevate the WA municipality to a status of the metropolitan status. He also talk about the need for jobs for young people, and he's saying that within his 4 years reign, he will be able to deliver 1 million jobs for the people. But there was one particular issue that Mr. Mahama spoke about, which really which was dear to the heart of the people. He talked about people who are differently abled. They were present at the One House Palace when he spoke on that issue. He talked about the need to have the common fund, the disability common fund, separated from the actual common fund. He's saying that they are going to have their own common fund, and that one will be separated. They'll have their own board, and then they will know what to do with it. This one will not be under the care of the assembly, but under the care of the persons who are differently able.
Rafiq Salam is our Upper West Regional correspondent there, and he will be bringing us up to date on the former president's tour of that region. Now, the former president is expected to meet with chiefs, opinion leaders, organized groups, and leaders of religious bodies during his tour. Mr. Mahama is expected to return to Accra on Sunday ahead of the launch of his party's manifesto for the 2020 elections. Now, President Akufo-Addo says his government is not relenting on its efforts to guarantee access to water to all Ghanaians. The president said this when he cast sword for the extension of the 5 district water projects to Adaklu and its adjoining districts Tuesday. The Adaklu water project, when completed, will result in an increase in water coverage in the region by 6% and also help reduce the time used in searching for water, thus relieving women and children from the burden. President Akufo-Addo also commissioned the Amejope Community Water Project. This project is expected to serve communities in the areas as well as other adjoining communities.
Terrorist attacks on our soils and to prevent the importation of the virus into our country, because of which we have closed our borders. They have not been stationed at our borders to execute any political or ethnic agenda. I, Akufo-Addo, have struggled long and hard to become president of this country, and I measure my success in Ghana being a happy, united, and prosperous place for all her citizens. In my time as president, development has been distributed equitably to all parts of the country, and the impact of our policies has been felt by all. So I want to assure all that neither the NPP nor I have any plan whatsoever to bring division to any part of the country.
You're still here on Election Brief. Now it's time to hear the voice of the ordinary people on what policies will inform them in selecting their preferred candidate in the December polls. It's what we call voters' voice. Today we took our microphones to the Kaneshie Market Listen to what the people have been saying.
Hospital P. Naloma woman. Mene come over. Kawa honey one anna. Kawa color 1P. Nipi 1 anna. 1 bob. Wabi a school. After school after. I school quarter. Bakabi amenya ho. Amenya ho. After no fiano ewa. Mama neko. Secondary school, Nakaba Yaday, Nana Batampa, Nana Kabaka, Hubium, Nana Yadawase. I see an Kajania said that Nana, who didn't patente, Rafa Bumano, Nana Bra, Nefane won't panya fire, Mambi, Nefane Kaba for shaking, Nefania for now, Joe Mama. I got Joe Mama Neba, Emma Fenny with you with the school to Agbo. I'm a attack me. Better be an amebashia. I'm in fit. Better be a fair fit. Better be a fair fit. Lower buffy. Never go to war, Joe Mama. Need your mama back and your mama bar. So quiet, I thought.
Nana Danko Akufo-Addo. Yada was what? Nana Okukudrufo. Onyan Seni Nana. Yada was say. What the Yabi? Who the school free education? Okay, so why? If you do our school, we'll be a secondary school. And so on, school for my friend. If you go on this Sardine Marco, and so on, card upon this Sardine Marco, wash and Colewa school. Nana sent out the water. Yamama one day, Mama Quatin. And this is Tomila Farmer. Mila Farmer. Hey, Mahama no Ziagia. Banco don't know the one. A gala system. Let me very colon cover Siama. Mijana Nukwanaga. Akufo-Addo Vasia. Let me very colon. I'm Malatakpano. Kikama Sasam. Adwama Sasam. Tamatibade. Mahama Naga Trova. And they said, and I judge it. Hey, Mahama la Dwama. Mahama la Ziaja. And to hospitals. School. I'm not going to Janami. Mafupamo. You told us the one. And they said, the legend. Tamatiba Mahama Naga Trova Ziaja. MPP say, to Abano, be out to my Akufo-Addo. Now you my partner, Yano, no to us on Yanis school. Kaya for the Munko, no Musamunya school, Nibiada, no Munkondachi. I'm also my president, 3 ministers, no doctors for Emma Mangana. Minya Ghana for and then me Amalidia, Menemokasa, Abapa Lydia, Emaya blow, ya brepa, ya shaya ma, ebimwa ko school, ebimwa nursing school, ebimwa da so ekwa, ebimwa so secondary school, what if fear? School no last I no ya chia school fees so ya man kwa amuti me hwe ya say school na I taught brana ya tuaba ya system ya nanadro aneko no tesi nana de aneko nanadro ba mene makosia mene mosia mena meka mendis mene ame masia mene ame masia gbawe mokoya mokoya hai mokosia ya maybe abi at school free ile mokona for day ebi come planning another ba maybe la plate ebi come plate access nanado ya koya ni for nana
So it's 96 days to the election, and every weekday we'll be hitting the grounds to hear from the ordinary people on what will inform them to select their preferred choice in the December polls. Now, Evans Mensah, head of our political desk here at JoyNews, he joins me with some analysis on this particular area. You just heard some market women at Kaneshie Market. Evans, the Kaneshie Market is also something, one that can be classified as cosmopolitan, because you have people from different, backgrounds, trading there. But which constituency does it fall in, and what has been the voting patterns over the year? So this is Okankwe South constituency, and I must declare my interest. My mom is still a trader in Kaneshie. Has been in Kaneshie ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I was born, because my grandma owns a shop there. Okay. And my mom sells in that shop as well, so just right by the street. And so I grew up in Kaneshie, because in fact, I was born in Latabiokoshi, which is not too far from Kaneshie. Yeah. I mean, to be very specific, though, I don't think it's Latabiokoshi. I think it's Abosokai, very specific. Which is really right there. Okay. You know where the Abosokai roundabout is coming up, so right into Kaneshie. So I know this area very well. So the Kwankwe side is a very interesting constituency. It is a stronghold of the MPP. Okay. I mean, if you look at the data, at least since 1996 to 2016, MPP has always swept it. Okay. Both at the parliamentary and the presidential level. John Kufuor had the highest margin of victory in 2000 with 65% of the votes, and then in 2004 it came down to 63%. Nana-Addo in 2016 won it by 61%. I mean, and he improved it from his own performance in 2012. Right. So this is a safe seat for the MPP. The question becomes, if you look at the history, the question becomes what are the margins of victory there? As you heard, for me, it's clear that what is going to play out in the minds of these market women in Kaneshie will necessarily be two things from what we're hearing from the voices from the voters' voice. You see the group that believes free SHS is a key issue for them, and they're asking for you to vote for Nana-Addo. Right. And then you see the group that is asking for John Mahama to return. Exactly. They're extolling his infrastructure record. Yeah. So you see going into these elections, and again, if we go back to the Mokala voters' voice, same issues play out. The infrastructure versus free SHS debate. Whereas for the market woman's point of view, infrastructure appears to be the strongest suit and strongest point of John Mahama. From those who support Nana-Addo, they see the free SHS as his strongest point. One other thing that came up that the market women who were supporting John Mahama mentioned was the fact that they are not able to get repaid the loans that they were able that they contracted earlier on before this current government came into power, and so that they see that as a negative against the current administration. So that is going to be important, because let's look at the demographics of Kaneshie, and just a little bit of history. Kaneshie in Ga means under the lamp, right? So Kaneshie, like under the lamp, and it started off as a night market. Okay. So people sold under the lamp. Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. So it was called. So I'm going to. Instead of course, they couldn't say I'm going to the night market. Yeah. They say I'm going to Kaneshie. I'm going to the place where they study under the lamp, where they sell under the lamp. Exactly. Minya Kaneshie. Okay. So eventually it became the Kaneshie. So this is a predominantly market-driven, traders, people who you won't consider them as your elite class. These are, the masses, if you may. And this area, if you look at the MPPS against the NDC seem to appeal more to this kind of demographics when in terms of elections. But if you put in the general context of Okankwe South, Kaneshie has over the years sort of changed in its demographics. So it used to be, as I said, purely market. But there are residential areas all around it now coming up, in the close to Kaneshie. People say, I live in Kaneshie. It didn't used to be like that. That is going to play a part in making a decision. Okay. And if you see the votes for the MPP, it consistently has been going up and down. When they win power, they get higher votes in
Okanko South.
Okay.
When they lose power, it drops, but they still win.
Okay.
Okay, they drop into the 50s.
Okay.
Okay, but when they win, they go into the 60s. So Kufuor won in 2000 with 65%. As I said, it won again when they were retaining power in 2004 with 63%. Now won again 61%. When they're losing, they come into the 50s.
Okay.
Okay. So it's going to you just watch that and see what is happening. So if elections are coming up and you're watching a Kaneshie South election results come in the 50s, the history says something's going to happen in the long run. So that for me is an interesting dynamic to look at in terms of the demographics because of the point you made. If the market men are not able to pay up loans and it's an issue for them, some of them have had monies locked up in the collapsed, financial sector cleanup issues. That is going to be one thing that could affect the MPP's chances because these are people who traditionally have voted for them over the years.
All right, many thanks for that analysis. Evan Spencer is head of our political desk here at Joy News. Let's turn our attention on another constituency, Ododo-Diodio. Now, security and political analysts have called on the country's security agencies to clamp down speedily on perpetrators of violence ahead of the December elections. It comes after police failed to arrest anyone involved in the assault of MP for Ododo-Diodio, Lante van der Poy. Mr. van der Poy, who has served notice he will report the matter to the Speaker of Parliament, claims the perpetrators' identities are known. Security expert Adam Bona is worried lessons have not been learned from the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election violence.
Someone would have to act quickly, and I'm happy you have Sheikh on the other side of the line, especially he being a clergy. He belongs to those we would have to fall on when issues are getting out of hand. Because then, whether you like it or not, the churches and the mosques are going to be open. People listen to people like him and the chief imam and, the Christian council and all that. I think that some form of dialogue would have to start if it hasn't started. And the security agencies would have to act. I listened to Honorable van der Poy, I think, on, this morning, and I think last night I listened to him talking, and you can see that he's in pain. And as to whether these people have been arrested, and if they haven't been arrested, then that will not be deterring enough, because then we have just about less than 100 days to the general elections, both parliamentary and presidential. If these things are not done, ensuring that people are punished when they take the laws into their own hands, then we are going to see probably an increase with regards to violence when we get to the polls. And that area, there are a few things the police would have to do. But the security task force, places like that have always been in the news when it comes to elections and electoral violence. Let's put those places under siege. Let's ensure that we have, heavy presence of the police, the, security task force, who would have to ensure that the place is properly protected. If not, I can say I'm not being a prophet of doom, but what I've heard from the people, some of them who have called me, means that they are preparing probably for a battle in that area, which for me is not the way we should go as a nation. It's just going to the polls and casting a ballot.
Earlier, my colleague Manuel Coranting returned to Jamestown where the incident occurred, and he's been speaking to some residents.
The way the way now feel politics be different. I feel the part. Okay, mokoina anu kwale po alonu ko ko we no envy. Ko to ai ni po mokodi wana. Because the way now me feel politics be different. Because me no ni happy ken ke bo ake me share embe me share. Because ma ken be me share me ne wo any fe gemona here. Onuji me no ma we na kan. Because let's start.
Okay, let's start.
4 years ago, Belen they start. Lene yana jiji me gani bi. Ni mene use ke yi me no ni fio na gani bi no. Lene start. Ega tem ingeni ba beni million ke gbe. E ba yini la te banama. E yizo la un ye bi ene ni former ni assembly ma ile bi ya police station no. Onunji. Amana yi esla gani bi. Onunji no that's no ona ge bogame wo you no ga tona ge twatete onunji mi imbe mi she aga no ni happy sane happy esa na ga no go happy shi boje na ga ngbe
And he's telling me that he's not happy with the incident that went down yesterday in relation to the MP. But he alleges that all this started from the MP himself. He mentions 2012 and says that the MP had arranged for boys to go and attack the Esla Owusu. Also mentions that in 2016, the current parliamentary candidate of the NPP, Nilanti Bannerman, was also assaulted by the sitting MP, Nilanti Vanderpoel. And so for him, what's good for the goose is also good for the gander. And so Nilanti Vanderpoel, according to the gentleman I'm speaking to, called this upon himself.
Because kaji mbuku ni ogele pan gbe no eto ashi bo wa yile alo wa take advantage eno afi no le gbenwe na kan
si nakamaje ni be no happy o ka ke nke bu pan gbe no betra ka wa yibo
sometimes.
Yes, indeed, it's 96 days to the elections, and this is where to stick and stay for all your updates on political happenings. 1:30 p.m. tomorrow, we are back again with Election Brief. I'm Marva Kumsin.